So Fern, I understand this is your 8th year at Charleston Fashion Week or something like that?
I think so. 7 or 8, I can't keep track.
Well, I tell you, it's only my 3rd year, but it is probably, for me, it is one of the best fashion weeks that I have been to in the South. And I know that you're such a huge draw. I mean, people come here, I think, because Fern Mallis is involved. So talk about your role.
Well, I've been very happy coming here all these years. I mean, Charleston's a great city, and I love this event. I love that it's one that encourages emerging talent, and its real focus is on the emerging designers. I mean, there's always some wonderful guest designers that we bring every year. Like last year it was Bipu Mohapatra, and having Yoli and Yigal Azrael this season is terrific, and it's a really nice event. I mean, I kind of love it also because it has a little Bryant Park feeling to me about being these tents in a big park, right in the middle of a city, and everybody on the team works really hard, and they all have a great time, and there's a lot of good energy, and it's great for the city. It's great for the economy. I mean, it's not a fashion week as we know it in New York, where the front rows are filled with heavy-hitting buyers and retailers and people making, really big decisions about what to buy and making and breaking careers. It's not that.
It's not that. But that's what I love about Charleston Fashion Week, because while yes, of course I enjoy the guest designers, but the emerging designer talent, it's pretty remarkable, and that is the future of fashion.
Yes, absolutely is. And there's some very good talent that comes through there. There's some that's not so good. But it's an opportunity for young people to have a dream realized and see a collection that they've worked on, come to fruition with hair and makeup and styling, and see it on a runway with models, and and that's a big thrill. That's something a lot of young people can't afford to do.
No, they can't. But speaking of the future of fashion, the future, or really the current of Fern Mallis, your book, Fashion Icons, which is proudly on my coffee table. I have, thank you. And so between the book in conjunction with the interview series, you've got some really amazing, wonderful things happening. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the book first.
Well, I'm very proud of the book. The book came out actually 2 years ago. I can't even believe it's 2 years now. It was launched spectacularly with 16 windows of Saks Fifth Avenue in New York, in all the windows, with a big party on the designer floor with all the designers and most of the people that are in the book. And the book is a compilation of the first 19 of the first 21 interviews that I did at New York's 92nd Street Y. It's called Fashion Icons with Me. And the book is called Fashion Lives or Fashion Lives, however you want to say it, which I love the double entendre of that name. I do too. And the stories and interviews they're about these iconic names that people know, from Tom Ford and Marc Jacobs and Calvin and Donna and Tommy and Michael Kors and John Varvatos and Betsy Johnson. You name it. But it's not about their collections. It's not about this season and that season. It's really about who are you? How did you become you? How did you start from absolutely zero and no money? None of them were inherited a family business or anything. How did you build a business? How did you create this multi-million, billion-dollar operation that most of them head up now? And so you really get to learn about them. And they're very warm, intimate, funny, one-on-one conversations, in front of a live audience that pays to sit in the theater, about 800 to 900 people. And it's been great.
Well, I love your style because I had the privilege of sitting in on one of your interviews. This was in Atlanta. It was more than a year ago now, but it was Monse.
Yes, with Fernando and Laura.
Yes, and you sat down and you made a few jokes, which I loved, and you really just make your interview so conversational that the guests clearly are comfortable, but so is the audience. And one of my favorite fashion icons you interviewed recently, and I came this close to flying up to New York for it, and that was Tom Brown. Mm-hmm. So you can maybe talk about Tom Brown and how did that happen? How did that interview come about? But also would love to know about some of your other interviews. I won't ask you to pick a favorite, but maybe some memorable moments with some of them.
Well, Tom Brown, I've loved for many, many years. I'm a huge fan. I think what he does is crazy brilliant. He's really, really talented. And I've interviewed Tom when I had a radio show on Sirius XM called Fashion Insiders, and he wasn't a great interview. He was very monosyllabic and not really talking, and so I was reticent for a long time to have him as part of this series. But then he'd recently been honored at a lot of places, and he was at the Couture Council at FIT, where I'm on the board, and he was wonderful talking about a little bit about his life and career and his loves, and and I went up to him and Andrew Bolton, his partner, and I said, "I think it's time. You want to do it?" And he goes, "Yes." I said, "Will you promise you're going to talk? You promise you'll give real big answers?" And he was like, "Absolutely. I'm really yes." And so we scheduled it, and he was charming. He was so sweet and wonderful, and that business is extraordinary. I said in my introduction, I said, when Tom started his business some 13 years ago, he was making these suits that he made 5 of them, begging friends to buy them and people to wear them. And everybody made fun of him and laughed and snickered behind his back, like, "Ha, look at that!" It looked like Pee Wee Herman and little short, proportion changed on everything. I said, "Well, nobody's laughing now because 13 years later, it's a $100 million business. It's larger than the Row, than Proenza Scula and Joseph Altuzarra, and very close to Alexander Wang, and it's growing 30% a year, and it's a real business." The guy has stuck to his guns. He never wavered once. And his shows are theater. They're opera.
Absolutely.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah, I said he's one of my icons, and his shows are absolutely so theatrical, so dramatic, and as you know, I'm an educator, and I always show my students, and they're like, "Who's going to wear that?" And I say, "But it's not about that. The runway is the canvas for the designer, and this is."
Yeah, I always say his shows are Robert Wilson meets Tim Burton or something on a fashion runway.
Yeah.
It's just insane what he does, but he's really formidable. And the next interview I have coming up as soon as I get home is with Iris Apfel.
I saw that.
So that's going to be a hoot. And I have Dennis Basso coming up in June. And since the book came out with the 19 people in it, I've done Valentino, Victoria Beckham, Leonard Lauder, Iman, Cindy Crawford.
They were pretty big names.
Zach Posen, Alexander Wang, the Missonis, lots of fabulous people.
So you're really, really enjoying this.
Yeah, I love this series. I really do.
Yeah, you're living your future now. You're in New York. Your home base is New York City.
Yes.
Okay. Do you, because you're so busy, I know you also consult and you're always traveling abroad. Are you ever actually home just to enjoy life and relax, and what do you do?
Yes, not enough, but I am. And I have a wonderful retreat and a weekend house in the Hamptons. It's on a beautiful lake, and I need to get out there and get recharged and refreshed, and that's kind of where that happens for me.
Is that where you do your gardening?
Yeah, I garden a little bit. A name like Fern, I garden a little bit. Thank God it's not a big piece of property, so it's not too much to worry about. But I'm worried about all the bulbs coming up now because it's supposed to snow again. So, the poor plants don't know what they're doing.
Well, the weather's definitely tricking nature into thinking it's spring. No, it's winter.
Yeah, it's crazy time of the year. But that's where I go, and also my next Fashion Week event is going to be in next month in April in Nashville.
Nashville
Fashion Week, and Anna Swee is going to come down and do a headline show down there.
Really?
And they're really so excited down there. It's kind of fabulous because she's a huge music fan and has she's never been to Nashville. She's dying to go. And Karen Elson, who lives down there, the model is a great pal of Anna's, and so we'll get her involved. And
yeah, I mean, I've never met Anna Sui, but I mean, I remember back in the day. So I got my start in fashion, or my interest, and I'm going to date myself not, but it was on CNN with Elsa Clinch.
Yeah, love that.
So, so now you know how old I am. And
We
every morning.
we almost had Elsa at the Y a couple of years ago, and then she had to cancel that because she had an emergency trip to go to Australia for something, and now her health's not so great right now.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, she roped me in. She just pulled me in. And I remember all these interviews back then in Anna Sui talking about how the supermodels, it was Christy, Naomi, and Linda who kept pushing her, become a fashion designer, do a show. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, always in her shows. And this past season, Bella and Stella Hadid both opened her show.
Amazing.
She gets all the girls.
Well,
they all love Anna.
She's a legend. Yeah. Well, thank you. I was, I was going to ask you what's up next, but I think you've covered all that. So, thank you so much, Fern, for speaking with us with Fashionado, and we'll definitely, if we don't catch up with you in New York, we'll definitely see you back here in Charleston. Though I may just make it to Nashville for Fashion Week because you and Anna Sui, yeah, that's sweet.